On our agenda, just to change some verbiage on, we're going to seek approval on precinct lines and then have an update on district, legislative districts.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Chantel?
Yes, Chantal Laulu with Indigent Services. The first case that I have for you is case number 2022-0045. This application is submitted for cremation expenses through Manning Wheatley Funeral Home in the amount of $1,200. The application was submitted by the funeral home. The deceased was a 70-year-old male who lived by himself at the time of his death. He is a Bannock County resident, was not a veteran. With the information that we were able to obtain, it does appear that he meets criteria to be eligible for assistance through the indigent program. Bannock County is the last resource, and there was no responsible party located for reimbursement of this request. The next case that I have for you is case number 2022-0046. This application is submitted for cremation expense through Manning Wheatley Funeral Home in the amount of $1,200. The applicant is a 37-year-old male applying for cremation expenses for his 64-year-old mother. She was not a veteran. Both are considered Bannock County residents. With the information that we were able to obtain, it does appear that the applicant and the deceased meet criteria to be eligible for assistance, and the applicant has agreed to a $25 a month repayment plan upon approval of this application.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case numbers 2022-0045 and 0046.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The next case that I have for you is case number 2022-0043. Our recommendation is a denial of this application pursuant to Idaho Code 313505A. The interview was not attended, and the applicant did not provide any verifications to be able to establish indigency or that Bannock County is the last resource for this request.
Mr. Chair, on case number 2022-0043, I make a motion that we deny this case.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thanks, Chantel.
Thank you.
Kyle?
Morning.
Good morning.
Kyle Burmester, Bannock County Public Works. Getting that time of year again, we're looking at renting a couple pieces of machinery for our crushing operation. First, we have a jaw crusher through Goodfellow. We do, even on stuff like this at a lower than the 50,000, we still do quotes. We go through 4 different places. We go locally. Goodfellow was the cheapest for our jaw crusher. It's for making our cold mix materials and some of our summer gravel materials. Costs a lot to ship it, but we're going to rent it for a month at $21,000, and it's $5,000 for round trip shipping fee because of the weight.
When are you going to rent it for? What day are you going to rent it?
We're hoping the 1st of next month.
So 1st of March? And you're looking to start paving in March, or?
No, we're just crushing material.
Oh, getting it all
pit.
ready for that. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
We don't have a lot of winter going on, so we're hoping to get a start on crushing.
I know we've had this conversation before about it, but didn't you guys go through and actually look at what the cost would be of just buying gravel versus crushing and having and renting that?
So that's a good question, because that's what we're doing right now. Is we're kind of working with City Works too to get that together. But that's why we started kind of buying our chips, is because in the past it's been thought that we don't put your hours as part of that, and I don't believe that. So we're doing a recalculation of
Of
costs
to include
because
the
we don't have an
manpower?
accurate cost, because like I say, they held out all labor before. And it's because of the thinking of, we have these people hired, they're here anyway. But my way of thinking is, even if you can save that time to be doing other work like shouldering,
Right.
or
There's an opportunity cost.
so we are looking at that very closely to see, even if it's close, we still might look at purchasing instead, just for the fact of the time savings of, right now for this material, we're crushing for a cold mix. And so in a cold mix process, we have the springtime that we're crushing, so that takes weeks out of our guys' time. And then once you get ready to put cold mix out, you have weeks of pugging it. So you're adding the oil to these materials just to make this material that we use. Cold mix is a lot cheaper than hot mix, but once you add all that time in, and so we'll see how close we can get.
Cool.
No,
Well,
that's
thank you for
good.
looking at that.
And especially having City Works, once that comes up to where you can actually tell all your stockpile numbers of what do you have.
Yeah, and the other problem we had a lot was we had like materials all pits in pub works and stuff, so we didn't keep a real good storeroom, track of storerooms. So right now we've got it set up that every pit, every yard, we have a total materials on hand, and that's being clicked out as we go. And then as we build it
Nice.
or crush it, it'll calculate, you know, we'll have them numbers in there so we know what we're paying for per ton, and
That's cool. Very
so
cool.
yeah, it'll be nice.
With that, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the Goodfellow contract as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next is a screen plant. We did the same thing with it. We went through 4 different vendors. Power Screen was the one that had the lowest number on it. This is for screening sand and other materials. While we're screening the sand, we can screen for like our 3/4 and different materials that way. We usually do that in the Virginia pit because it's a sandier pit. We're looking at renting it for a month, the month of April.
Okay.
And the purchase price on that was $250,000.
Yeah, we don't want to buy one of those.
No, yeah, they put that in there for Christie and insurance. Yeah, we're not buying it.
We're not buying it. Don't even ask.
Advertising are really good. When they pick up these leases, they let us know because we have to insure them.
That's
So that saves us from,
Saves us some time when they give us that.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the power screening contract as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
That's how much additional revenue you'd have to spend. Hey, you're 2 for 2 today.
Yeah. We didn't get you up
Good way
that
to
bad.
start a week, even with you.
I know.
We asked some good questions, and you had answers, and you're right there. You just- Open transparency, right there, man. There you go.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Adam.
Good morning. Adam McKinney, Chief Tech Officer. This morning, I am seeking a signature on a PS Alley private switch automatic number location identification service. Basically, the Ray Bombs Act that was passed last year goes into effect the 6th of January 2023, and at that point, we need to be able to provide any 911 calls made out of the county switch with exact location information. It's no longer, right now, currently, most of the county offices, they go out one number, so you'll have a building address, but this Ray Bombs Act requires that we actually publish floor and room as well. So this is we looked into a couple of vendors on this. CenturyLink is by far the cheapest on this. It was only $2,042 one-time fee. It will raise our monthly cost by $5.30 per PRI line. We have 3 currently. That's the sheriff's office and the 2 here. Those offset by the 2 contracts we got signed over the last couple of weeks to bring the pricing down on that. So it's really marginal amount of increase, and it brings us into compliance. We've already upgraded our switch gear to support this, and we're just ready to get it underway and get it started. We're going to use some court security funds to pay for this that we've already got allocated. So that's basically it.
Okay. I'm good with it. You guys?
I'm good, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the contract as presented by IT.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 you very much.
Thank you.
Adam.
Doesn't look like Sherry is here, so Jason. Yeah,
By 1 minute, there you go.
we're there.
For maps?
We're within 15.
Yeah. Come on up.
Yep.
Come on.
So, as you all know, we've been working on the new precinct maps, and Commissioner Tovey, myself, Julie, and Heather have all been working on them, and primarily these two ladies. And you all know, but I'm going to say it. Julie cares more about elections than anyone I've ever met, and the integrity of elections. And so I'm going to say that on the record, that I think that this might be her religion. And so, big kudos to her and the staff over there. And then secondarily, but no less important, with a new GIS director, I think we would all have some questions on how good is she going to do? And home run, grand slam. It was amazing to go out there and work with her. And the map that she has created is gorgeous to look at and accurate. So it's very easy to read. And so, anything else you want to say about the process, or?
If you have copies, if you want to hand them up.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know, Jeff.
I haven't seen one yet.
These on paper are pretty impressive.
And if I can just add to Jason, after my sitting through a couple sessions at NACO last week and listening about election stuff, again,
Yeah.
hats off to our election crew here in Bannock County. I think we do a phenomenal job.
You do amazing work.
So, thank you.
Yeah, these actually.
Oh, three separate ones?
Yeah, there's a complete county, a kind of mid-county area, so Ingham through Aramis sort of thing, and then Chubbuck Pocatello area.
If you guys are.
Take one down and pass them around.
Yep.
Heather's brilliant at making these maps, just.
There we go.
Which one you want to start with, the complete one?
Nancy, did you get a digital copy of this?
Okay. All right. I don't know about you guys, but the color makes it a little bit easier for me
I'm
to.
giving you a packet.
Jason's gonna pick the color schemes.
Okay.
You did something right. Had my own ones.
So are we gonna renumber any of these at this time, or are we gonna
Yeah.
kick them all over? Or?
So I put a call into Fort Hall because I thought that that would probably be a good idea to give them the courtesy of getting them to weigh in on just a precinct number change.
Yes.
Not any lines or anything up there, but if we wanted to keep, the goal is to keep all of the 60s kind of down south, start with legislative district. 35 now would be in the 80s, and we're making huge gaps for growth in the future because we know we're growing. And then the 50s and 40s would be up near the Fort Hall area and Chubbuck. And Randy L. Teton was really, thankful that I had reached out. She was going to talk to the council and maybe do a Zoom call. They were under the impression that they got chopped up there, which they didn't. They do have some ground over in Lava, but no residents that live there, so they're a little concerned about the representation for them that's going to change in that area. But then they never got back to me. So Heather, the numbers that are in the 100s are the ones under question. We've already done, like we talked about changing 28 to 30 because we have a legislative district 28, but a precinct 28 in legislative district 29, which could cause some confusion. So we changed that to 30, kept 43, went 41 on the outside there. Up here, and we split, precinct 11 had Chubbuck and Pocatello. We made the one side its own and named it 16 because we had a gap there. And then otherwise, I don't know how long we want to wait for the tribe, but we're kind of on a crunch time here, so.
I would say if you went ahead and had conversations with them, there's no representational change, there's no voting change. The only thing is it's an administrative number.
Right.
And that's the whole thing is to make sure that this keeps it easy for people to understand.
Right.
And it helps too in your office and everybody's office to know, hey, if you're talking about this precincts in the 60s, you automatically know it's in South County. If you're talking in the 50s, you know it's out in Chubbuck. 80s is going to be the part in South County that is in that other legislative district. And so for the next 10 years,
Yep.
that helps give you guys a way to understand where this is at.
Well, and if we do this right now, I think you've said this 100 times, Commissioner Tubby, if we do this right now, in 10 years, we're not looking at such a drastic change. We've already got gaps in numbers, we've already got lines that are, on areas where they need to be as far as not cutting through somebody's house.
Well,
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, and that's been the whole thing too, is the reason that this has probably been an easier process this time is because there already was, we went through and we maintenanced,
Right.
and that's the main thing that needs to happen here is every 2 years, we need to be going through and maintaining these maps and making
Right.
sure that everything is
Solid.
solid.
So I did get a ruling from the state. Heather had discovered that 2 lines were drawn right through somebody's house. And because they followed
The
a-
legislative district lines.
they followed a census line?
Census block
A
line.
census block instead of a boundary line. And so, back in the day, when there were different people at the Secretary of State's office, it was where their post office box, or their mailbox was which side of the line you put them on. Now, it's apparently your bedroom and where your bed faces. Do I have to drive out to these people's homes and see where their bedroom is facing? Or
What if they change the bedroom? face?
Yeah, what happens if one gets sent to the couch? What happens if you have 2 separate voters in there?
Well,
Right,
that's a
well,
Supreme
and then
Court
they
issue.
would just flip the bed around to decide whoever they wanted to vote for and whatever.
Oh, no, bed's facing north. This time, I'm totally voting for that other guy.
Right. So I'm gonna get, hopefully, a little more solid ruling on that because it makes zero sense to me. Mailboxes are pretty stable, they don't move.
Well, it's outside, and it's something that can be identified from the street.
Well,
Right.
some of the issue with that might be with the neighborhoods and the group mailboxes, that might cause,
Oh, a cluster?
yeah, some of that issue. So
They only have mailbox on one side of the street in Ingham.
No.
You live on the other side.
Makes it really easy then.
Yeah, right.
Well, if you'll stay on that one then. Okay. No, like I said, I was glad as smooth this process went this time. I know that if you want to talk about 37 up in the Highland Hill, that was that Mongo
So-
monstrous looking.
Yeah.
There's really not a lot of people that live in one side of it, so.
We cleaned it up pretty good, though. It had School Zone 1, School Zone 5, City of Chubbuck, and City of Pocatello all in one precinct. And that gets to be a little bit of an integrity issue when you're dealing with multiple ballot styles in one precinct and people voting on the proper issues. So we redrew the City of Pocatello out and down into 37. So it'll have, and then put the line up high line so that it cuts out Zone 1. So now 57 just has Chubbuck and Zone 5,
Okay.
which is a lot cleaner than it was.
Yep.
And then just for my edification, could you just kind of talk about how you tried to split it up population-wise? Because I'm seeing your population numbers are pretty consistent in clusters. So did you just shoot for, how did you do that?
Approximately equal in the areas that were usually inside city limits. I was aiming for approximately equal. Obviously, when you get down towards central South County numbers, because of the legislative district change, getting equal populations down there, I'm going to say is impossible.
Right.
Because of the way those lines were done. But inside the cities, I did my best to try to keep total population and 18 plus population approximately equal if I could.
Yeah, it looks like you did a pretty good job of that, so well done.
And if we look at voter registration totals versus population totals, our numbers are going to drop even in some places significantly more than what numbers you're seeing here. Because not everybody in that precinct that's eligible to vote is registered to vote, but they might be eventually, so we wanted to keep that balance pretty close.
On the back side, on the income 107, I just have you check your, I think ARC probably did an auto population fill and brought it from 67 because those both match. I know we cut both of those. I think it carried a, because I don't think income is that big, but I know
No,
that,
it is not.
and I know what the computer probably did.
That was a human error on my end. I just
You're okay.
forgot to rewrite when I
Nope,
broke
you're
up
okay.
income. I forgot to rewrite
I mean,
that.
we
apologize.
understood that the total population of those two areas is 1831, and we're pulling income out, which is about, what, 800? Um,
Yeah, 8, 9.
So, and both of those areas are growing like crazy, and so, yeah.
That was my.
And
I
that keeps it,
apologize.
oh no, you're fine. And that keeps your ballot styles consistent. Because then the city of Income is not, yeah. It actually works fairly well. I'm good with it.
Okay.
You want to renumber then?
Yeah, I will. I think that because you guys are approving boundaries today, I would like to have a conversation about numbering so that we're all kind of on the same page with
Okay.
where we're gonna put those numbers, and if we're okay to just go ahead and change precinct 60 to
I-
70
you know,
now.
my recommendation to the board is to, I'll make a motion here in just a second, but to go ahead and approve the boundaries and then take administrative cleanup. We need some, there's one or two of those rulings from the Secretary of State's office, boundary numbering, how you want to administratively change those, get those.
But to get people registered, we need to do that fairly
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, it's gotta be like, yeah. I mean, it all has to be done by the 27th.
Right,
I mean, it has to be available for 8 in the morning, the day
right.
yeah.
So some some counties in the state have March elections. I'm really thankful that we didn't, but they can't redraw anything during an election. So they are all basing their candidacy filing forms on paper maps on the front counter. So we don't want to get to that point, but we'll have maps out anyway, just as a double check to make sure. But I've got probably 50 hours into putting people in the right place and
Okay.
about 40 more to go.
Well, that's what I say is the legislative numbering, I think you could probably give direction on that, and we could probably accomplish that fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think
And that's just an administrative
Right,
issue. That's not gonna change voting, that's not gonna change anything that way.
right.
you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the precinct maps as presented from the Elections Office and GIS, and request that they be approved and give allowance to the Elections Office for administrative actions such as numbering at their discretion and their ability, and that they bring the map to us for full signature at their earliest convenience.
You have a motion? Any questions?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good job, you
Great
guys.
job.
Thank you
This is a
very
huge
much.
lift.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, here, take mine.
You don't mind?
Hey Heather, if you guys can get those changes done and get that, we can get it on for Thursday for signature.
Okay.
Or we can sign just as soon as it's available. Actually, I think that's how I made them. Yeah, signature, yeah, I included that. So as soon as you can get them printed, we'll sign them.
Okay. Is this format good for the signatures? Do you want a bigger one?
The old map has a signature block at the bottom.
Right.
Just follow how that format's laid out. But yeah, you can do that, just put a signature block on each one.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks.
Sherry?
Those are so much prettier. Oh, I know, just looking at it, being able to see those precincts that have their own block, it's nice, easier to read.
Good morning.
Good
Morning.
Sherry Davies, Bannock County Assessor. I'm here to petition the board on signatures for the consulting services agreement with Matt Virgil. And we've had some really good training that we've seen from him previously. We still have a fairly significant need. We have to have an analyst in my office to analyze sales data and and that's the training that he'll be doing the most of. And then we also need him, we're gonna have to use our residential department to help out our commercial department, and so that we can finish our 5-year plan. And so he'll probably need to step in and do some quick training for the residential. But
How did the training that he did earlier, this year, right? That he,
Mhm.
and how'd that go?
it went really well. We've got teams going out, and he trained mostly in residential, So we've got teams going out. They're on their last, I think, 100 parcels that on the site visits and re-inspections. So the reevaluations, they are just finishing those up. They should be done probably this week, and then they're going to jump in and help in commercial. But they will need some training for that.
I guess it's not a concern, but my question is, there isn't a concern where he's the inspector, kind of to me, and then the trainer. You know,
Yes, I understand that. It's a balancing act, kind of, because where my office is doing so much cleanup from the past, you get a little bit nervous, what everybody's looking at. But he's done really well as far as, anything that, since we went to these new programs, the State Tax Commission has the ability to get in, and they could get as deep into our records as they wanted to from Boise. So I guess my concern as far as that goes isn't probably any greater than it would have been before. And he's really good at training. He does a good job. He teaches a lot of the classes, or some of them. So the Appraisal 1 class he teaches, and he teaches some other courses, so for the state.
well, in Jeff's terminology, he's the referee and the coach.
Yeah.
So I just kind of,
Who better to teach you the rules than the ref?
True.
He does a good job, and we really need him to, we've identified who I would like to put in that analyst lane, and he's currently working with him, so, yeah.
So on that, I saw it's $150 an hour, something like that. But is there a cap?
For 320
Yeah.
total hours, so that's 48,000. Do we have that?
There's 50,000 in the professional services.
Okay.
Okay, all right. That's where I was going next, Jason, so thanks.
Okay.
And then, just to make sure I heard you correctly, you're gonna have some of your residential appraisers trained by Matt to help with some of your commercial stuff.
Yeah.
Just real quick, high level, what are they gonna do to help with that?
So there's a whole bunch, or not a whole bunch, but we're still looking at probably 450 commercial parcels that are not done. And the majority of our commercial is not sketched and data entered yet, and which is a topic for another day. But they can go in and take out the bare land, kind of like we did with residential. The residential appraisers should be able to step in and do that really easily and fairly quickly, and just knock it out of the park. And then they can, once the bare land is finished, then they should be able to go out and do site visits. They can do the site visits with training and make sure that they get all of the data that needs updating. And they'll take good notes and they'll bring it back, and then our commercial appraiser will, they'll be busy.
So they won't
Doing the
necessarily do
appraisals.
the assessment per se, but they'll just gather the data so that the commercial, gotcha.
Pictures, data,
Great.
contacts if needed, things like that.
Perfect.
So,
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Chair, can I have one comment on it? There was a non-appropriations clause, but I'm not worried about it because of the duration of the contract and we're going to have all the money up front. The only question I had was on the termination clause, just the language that says the consultant and client may terminate this agreement at any time. Is that, I wonder if that's meaning that both the consultant and client have to agree to terminate it within 5 days, or they can do it separately? Reading that, I would assume separately, but I didn't know if the commission had a concern about that or not. And we can make an adjustment to that.
And do the or.
Because usually I prefer like an or if it's there, because that could be argued that both the consultant and county
My
would have to
termination
agree.
clause doesn't say that.
On number 9?
So I think
There's a little bit of a spell check error that went on right there.
Right on top.
I was wondering if it was trying to say conciliary or something like.
Yeah. Yep, because it says the consultant and client may terminate this agreement at any time. I didn't know if we wanted to clarify saying. it
Does
could
that
be-
say consultant?
That says, I saw that on mine too. But I assume just like, yeah, there is a
I was
spell
trying to
check,
figure out
or
what- I was
maybe
trying to-
some print on it. I don't know.
Just a standard quill sewing.
Well, because I was like,
It took me a second for it to click of like,
Yeah.
what are they trying to say? Oh, that's consultant. They just put a
Yeah.
couple more spaces in there than they needed.
but so that's the only thing we've ran into this issue sometimes,
Yeah.
like if we want to get out or they want to get out, do we both have to agree or can
No, I'd
each one
leave
of
it
us?
as
So
either
I don't know
party.
if the commission would want to clarify that before signing it or sign it with that condition or just go as is.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say either or, but I don't
Yeah.
see that that'll be a concern.
it's,
I get that.
that didn't change from our previous contract that we had with him. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
the only thing that we changed are the dates.
I just noticed
And-
if
Yeah.
we wanted to terminate it, would we have to both agree to it, or could just one person unilaterally do it?
The discussion that I've had is that, yeah, either or,
Okay.
could terminate at any time when we went over the contract. So,
Other than that, you're good?
Yeah.
So we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the contract with Matt Virgil as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Signed, sealed, and delivered. Okay?
okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sherry.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, when I first saw that word too, I was like, what?
Sometimes your brain doesn't kind of click that.
There's a couple of them in here.
It's like it didn't look right.
All right. Next, we have a memo.
Letters of support. Want to do them all together? Or?
Okay, we have a, first we have letters of support, the memo for the Tri-County Sheriff's Association. Director Tom Keeley, a letter of support for the city of Downey for a block grant.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve letters of support as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously.
The Pocatello Senior Center is going to ask us for a letter of support as well.
Okay.
For there, so that'll be coming.
As soon as there's any meat, I'll give it to you. You guys.
Voted to support.
There's another one too. That just.
Of course they did. It's a good idea.
Next, from the sheriff's office, we have a memo of consent for shredding, a service contract for Mountain Shadows to take care of lawn care.
The shredding is records, or what's the disposal of records?
Yes.
You're good with the disposal of records? Okay. No,
Service sheets
no, I'm good with that.
and
I
bookkeeping.
just wanted to make sure that the clerk was good with it.
So they have been scanned.
Yep, and I've talked to him about it a little
Okay.
bit.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the contracts for the sheriff's office as presented.
Motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have January 2022 Commissioners' Proceedings.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And under the consent agenda, we have an alcohol license and Commissioners' minutes for February 15th and 17th.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
A motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. With that being said, we'll be at recess